Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Steez! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm simply statue think they slate, dropping unrealistic mags. 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the milli, never hear me preach, flip on to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through the early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals to fill the day. Good afternoon, folks. I hope you're having a joyful Tuesday. Down by the Jersey Shore here, it's a little bit cooler than it's been recently. It's not so humid, which is thus why I'm doing this show outside, enjoying the fresh air. But I'm keeping it in the shade, too, so my computer doesn't overheat, making direct contact with the sun. Now, with that being said, you're going to start to see a shift of directions here on these sports talk shows. Now we're in August. The Olympics is over. Team USA won 2 gold medals in basketball, both men's and women's, which we will discuss on the show. However, also August means we're getting closer to football season. And this means this is where I switch gears more into football. Now, if those of you have followed my channel for the longest, you're probably thinking basketball is my main sport since it's the one I talk about the most. I spend more time throughout the year focused on basketball. Now, however, the reason I do that is because football is only a handful of months a year. There's more off-season time through February, March, April, May, June, July. And then August, you start to pick up. But it's really just like, September through January with that one big game in February. So that's why I spend more time yearly talking about basketball, because there's more to discuss. Longer season, more time to fill. But now you're going to start to notice as we get to football season, you're going to start to hear me talk about football a little bit more. And that's where we're at today. I'm going to start off talking about the Eagles. First, we're going to talk about it. You see the Super Bowl 52 MVP, Nick Foles, has retired. He will be retired as a Philadelphia Eagle, and that's going to be beautiful. He's going to be honored week 2, best for the home game against the Falcons, the Monday night game, which is awesome. We all know Nick Foles, like I said, MVP of Super Bowl 52. The one play that'll stand out most from his time in Philly was in that game. The Philly special play. The lateral. Trey Burton to Foles. The play that made a huge difference in that game and decided the game right there. But yes, shout out to Nick Foles. He has retired, and he'll be moving on to other ventures. And of course, Nick Foles forever grateful for the Eagles run with the Eagles. And here you go. You see right here. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to retire as a Philadelphia Eagle. The city of brotherly love has always felt like home to me as an NFL player. Philadelphia is a city I truly love. It has been an honor to wear the Eagles jersey. Thank you. That was Nick Foles' words for us when he announced he was retiring. And I'm happy. But man, I'm happy for Nick Foles. He gets to move on to his next ventures in life. He's a Philadelphia Eagles legend. could have his jersey retired because he is the MVP of our only Super Bowl win to date. So, hey, he's got that on his resume. I mean, it's crazy too with Nick Foles. The best thing about it is here's a career backup, pretty much. A career backup with a Super Bowl MVP and a Pro Bowl nod on his resume. And that's nice right there for a career backup. I mean, obviously, we know outside of that, outside of Philly, he didn't really do anything notable with his career. We know it was plagued by being in and out of the lineup and injuries, particularly, with the Rams and, Jacksonville, which sadly ended up being one of the worst free agent signings of recent history. But this is more about paying tribute to Foles with the Eagles, so we'll keep it short. But yeah, outside of Philly, he was mainly a career backup, in and out of the lineup. But with the Eagles, man, he had that Pro Bowl season in 2013. And then he comes back for a second stint. 2017, he has to take over for Carson Wentz, who's now, well, he's pretty much turned into Nick Foles without the Super Bowl ring to acknowledge it. But he steps in, Foles overtakes the offense. Eagles start to tail the offense to Foles' strengths from that 2013 season. He gets hot. He had a dominant NFC Championship game. And then Super Bowl 52, he had that excellent performance there. And, he caught the Philly special. So it's beautiful. It was great that we picked the right guy. And he was the guy for us in that spot. And right now we got a second at the risk of potentially getting, you know what, fuck it. I don't care. When we talking Foles, we're going to show the Philly special real quickly. Let's do it, folks. Going to keep the sound off, but we're going to show the play. Here we go. You see, it was 15-12. Fourth down. This was, this late in the first half. You're already up, but you're going to go for it because it's a back and forth game against the best team in the league. You had to take the shot, get as many points as you can. Here we go. Clement to Burton. Burton to Foles. Caught. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Then there you see Matt Patricia, the disgraced former defensive coordinator for the Patriots. But yeah, that was a beautiful play. We saw it. It's perfect setup. Fake communication problems with your team. Foles starts yelling, make it seem like he doesn't know what's going on. Clement takes it. Burton to Foles. Nobody's even paying attention to Foles because in your mind, who the hell is going to guard Nick? Who the hell is Nick Foles going to do if he's not behind center? But that's a beautiful play. You see, we got Mitch in here, the guy who brought me who officially signed me up for the Hardcore Sports Network. Shout out to him, and of course AK as well. Mitch is here, and we're talking about Nick Foles. We have that highlight right there, of course, the Philly special. We'll never forget that. Another memorable moment for Nick Foles was the 7 touchdown passes against the Raiders. Remember back in 2013? Yeah, that was another great moment right there as well. And here we go right there. You see 22 for 28, 406 yards, 7 touchdowns against the Raiders. Like, hey, that's amazing right there. I mean, for a career backup, hey, that's nice right there. You could just see Philadelphia Eagles, for whatever reason, it worked with Nick Foles. Don't ask me why. He was nothing more than a backup everywhere else who played limited snaps. But for the Eagles, when he was in the lineup, it worked. I mean, he never played a full season for us, but hey, just something clicked with Nick Foles with the Eagles. He was the perfect backup for this team, and it worked out. But yeah, the point being, though, is hey, Nick Foles deserves, hey, if you're going to retire number 9, do so. He deserves to have his jersey retired by the Eagles. He led us to the only Super Bowl win to date in franchise history, and he won the MVP of that game. Had multiple passing touchdowns and a touchdown catch, and had a Pro Bowl nod back in 2013 with the Eagles. So yeah, he deserves to be honored for that right there. Eagles Ring of Honor? Yep. So yeah, that's where it's going to stop. Now, what will Foles do next? Will he go more into religion? Will he try to stay around football? Hey, that's ultimately up for him to decide. But best of luck to Nick Foles in his future endeavors. I felt it's only right come on here and pay tribute to the man who won MVP of our first Super Bowl. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're still going to stay on the subject of the Eagles. Now I'm going to switch gears to the preseason opener a little bit. Now, with this being a preseason game, if you guys followed me for the longest, you probably know what I'm going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about the individual performances, and then we're going to do that. So, I mean, yeah, this is what, preseason, it's that time of year. It's an interesting because I was reading the article by Dave Spadaro. He's going through what he saw about it. And because Dave Spadaro and those guys, they get paid to talk about this for a living, they sometimes tend to overhype the performances. Like he's talking about Kenny Pickett. He's indicating in his little article that Kenny Pickett could be a phenomenal backup if needed to play. He didn't use the word phenomenal, but it's kind of what he implied. But the thing is with that, hey, Dave Spadaro gets paid to do this for a living. He gets paid to hype up the Eagles. He gets paid to talk about them in a positive light. So he's doing his job in that perspective. Now, we know as fans, realistically, it's a preseason game, mostly against backups. Kenny Pickett had a solid statistical line, but if you actually look at his performance, most of his completions were screens and other short passes, check downs, all that other stuff. He wasn't really like making any big plays, like any deep throws that really wowed you. Because look, Kenny Pickett, we know from his time with the Steelers, he's a limited QB. He is. And the Steelers had 2 winning seasons with him, but that was in spite of him. Remember, Kenny Pickett missed significant time last season due to injury as a starter. And the Steelers still found a way with guys like Mitchell Trubisky and Mason Rudolph on the roster to win just enough games to steal that 7th seed. I mean, come on, let's not forget that right there. So there's a reason he's a backup. And the Steelers won 9 games his rookie year in spite of Kenny Pickett being the QB. Listen, in spite of, not because of. So there's that to factor in as well. You also had TJ Watt on that Steelers defense. Let's not forget about that. And speaking of Steelers, just in time, here comes Chad into the chat. In case Chad's wondering what we're talking about, we're talking about Kenny Pickett. We're talking about how during his time with the Steelers, they had 2 9-win seasons. First year in spite of him, mainly off the backs of TJ Watt and that defense. And year 2, kind of a similar story, but you also remember Pickett missed time. The point being is, that's the reason Pickett's a backup. Now, tying back to what Dave Spadaro said, he's hyping up Pickett as a solid backup option based off that one good game, which I get it. You got to talk, you're Dave Spadaro, you got to talk about the birds. You got to find some content to talk about. So, and you try to put everything in the most positive light. That's what you do when you work for the organization. Any organization you work for, you're going to talk about them positively when you go out in public. You're going to try to make everything seem positive. That's part of being within an organization. So I don't fault Dave Spadaro for trying to talk up. And you even see it from Chad himself. Yeah, he's obviously not a fan of Kenny Pickett because it brings like too many nightmares for him. And now that ties into the reason why the Steelers let him go, because they realized he was limited. They knew they needed an upgrade at QB. Now, whether or not Russell Wilson or Justin Fields ends up being the answer, that's a whole nother subject. But the point is, they knew Kenny Pickett wasn't cutting it. And that's how he ended up as the Eagles' backup and getting the start for our first preseason game against the Ravens. So, yeah, he had a solid stat line, but that was mostly against backups. And that was with limited. I mean, he was limited in his abilities. You're talking these short passes and screens. That's not really anything to ride home about. That's just, I mean, hey, anyone can have a good preseason game. Anyone can go out there, put up a decent stat line. So that's how I feel about Kenny Pickett right there. Now, if he has to step up and start, say when we go against the Cowboys, because the Cowboys, even though we're not expecting to be as good a regular season team, they still have some playmakers on defense. What if Kenny Pickett has to go against that Cowboys defense while they're healthy for a game? How's that going to work out? Or how would it work out going against a team, say, like the Steelers even? What if Kenny Pickett has to start against the Steelers and they're fully healthy on defense? That's not going to work out too well in his favor. Or the Browns, say. So I'm not too hyped on the Kenny Pickett train yet. But, hey, I understand, people got to find stuff to talk about. You work in the organization, you got to hype it up. But let's talk more about the rest of the team now. The rest of the team, what I took away from that game, now Quinyon Mitchell, the rookie, he did have a few nice plays right there. for the time he had. He had a few pass deflections. He did drop an interception, but at the same time, this is literally his first NFL game. I'm not going to be too hard on him for it, but he actually showed his ability to adjust. He also alternated between nickel and what was it? Yeah, he alternated between nickel and outside, and he did solid for that game right there. And of course, yes, there is the fact that it was mostly against backups. Yes, that's true. But at the same time, if you're a quality player worth starting in the NFL, you should be playing well against backups. So, on one hand, yeah, it's not going to wow me like, oh my gosh, this guy's the next superstar because he did this and this. Look, anyone can have good games against backups. However, what I'm indicating is that if he's going up there in a favorable situation against majority of competition who will not see the starting lineup, I'll get to your question in a second there. If you're going out there and you're playing good against them for the time you play, you're doing something right. You're showing you have potential to compete with the starters. Now, if you're going in there against backups and guys that won't see an NFL roster and you're playing mediocre, that's a sign you're not cut out. That's what happened with Michael Sam with the Rams a few years, back a decade ago. Everyone's wondering why did he get cut? But the point being though is, right, if you're looking solid against backups, it's an indication you're not cut to start. Now, in the case here of Quinion Mitchell, okay, he showed some versatility in being able to cover and being able to play multiple positions in the secondary and play with multiple schemes. That's a good sign right there. So I'm happy with Quinion Mitchell right there. You got Johnny Wilson, the wide receiver. He had a catch and a few blocks, but I still want to see what Johnny Wilson's going to have to do for the remainder of the preseason. I'm not saying, I'm just kind of at the point where I'm like, let's see what Johnny Wilson does with more playing time. I'm like, okay, had a few nice moments in the opener, but let's see what you do with more playing time. You did have a block for Britton Covey. You did have a catch. Okay, that's cool. But let's see what you do with more competition. So I'm going to kind of wait out to see what he does. Now, for Jeremiah Trotter Jr., his first preseason game, he had a nice stat line for the time he played. For his first time ever on an NFL field in a game, he did have, right, as you see, 5 tackles and 1 sack. I'm like, all right, that's cool. That's cool. But this is also, so that's cool right there. At least he's showing, okay, this guy's at least going to get an opportunity. If he can put together another good performance like that in preseason, you bet he's getting an opportunity on the field, especially with his linebacker core. We're still got competition going on with this linebacker core. We're not sure who's going to step up and who's not. You got Nakobe Dean. There's a lot of questions about him if he's even going to have a spot on this team going forward. You're talking about a good, strong possibility that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. could take his spot if he keeps it up. And that's nice right there. But the question will be long term, of course. What's JT Jr. going to do when he goes up against NFL quality teams? Like if we get to the regular season, he's only getting like 1 or 2 tackles per game and no sacks midway through the season. He's getting at least half the possessions on defense. And that's a sign that maybe he's not really the appeal, the feel good aspect of the story of being on the same team his dad played is going to die out. But that's a big what if down the line. First, we got to get through this preseason. Let's see what he does in the preseason. Maybe he earns a spot. Maybe he beats out Nakobe Dean for a spot and he gets some playing time. We will see. Time will tell. But so far, nice for his first ever game. And, sure, it's going against backups, but guess what? You're going out there, you're doing something right if you're getting 5 tackles and 1 sack. Like I said earlier with Quinion Mitchell, you're taking the most of your playing time. If you're capable of starting, you should be doing well in these situations in preseason. Now, I definitely do want to see these guys get more playing time. Now, the running backs averaged a total of a plus 100 yards, but this was split between 3 backs. I didn't see anything between the running backs personally that impressed me. Of course, Dave Spadaro, being that he's an insider and he works for the organization, he's going to talk about it in a positive light, which you have to do in that role, like we said earlier about Pickett. But to me, the running backs, I'm not really that impressed yet. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell, 4 carries, 23 yards. But at the same time, it's like, hey, we know Gainwell's been here before. We know he's reliable when he gets the ball. He's reliable in situation. He's a reliable situational back for the Eagles. We already know that because he's established it through his time here. What about the other backs that are stepping on the field? Some fans probably won't even know their names, even after this preseason game. And the reason why is because we're not going to see them play. The truth is, that's the thing with preseason. I don't get too caught up in individual performances because I know a majority of the guys that play in preseason will not see an NFL roster. They'll be stuck on the practice squad or they'll be stuck on another team's practice squad. That's why I don't get too hyped about it, because we know there's going to be cuts made and the roster is going to be trimmed down to 53. It ultimately will be. But hey, I mean, we had Jake Elliott, of course. He hit the 2 field goals. First field goal was a miss, and the second field goal, he did make up for it, but I'm not going to harp on it too much because misses happen. Even the best kickers do it. Jake Elliott's been our most reliable kicker since David Akers. I'll forgive him for that first miss because he made up for it with the second. I mean, it's going to happen, especially since, he's been on off-season mode all off-season. He hasn't kicked the ball since January. Hey, let him get that out of his system early. Now, Jude, I know I've ignored you for a while, but what was your question about Atlanta? If you're still in the chat, go ahead, fire away. Because I'm not sure what you mean about question about Atlanta. So I'll give Jude a second there to answer the question, to ask about it, because I'm not sure what Jude's indicating with that. All right. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm assuming there's going to be another comment rolling in that's going to finish asking the question. So we'll give that about a few more seconds, and then I'm going to switch gears after that. So for the Eagles, yeah. But while we're waiting, I'm not going to really say much about it, except, hey, the preseason, hey, it was an opportunity for some of these guys to get their feet wet. Now, next time, we got 2 more nights. We're going to play the Patriots at 7 p.m. Now, I might catch some of that game right there. Question is, Atlanta have a good team this season? I don't think so. The Falcons, I see them as like below average to average. I mean, there's going to be a big QB controversy going on with Kirk Cousins and what's his name? Phoenix was his name. I mean, that's QB controversy with them. And plus, now granted, their QB room looks better than last year when it did with Desmond Ridder, but Falcons, I could maybe see them at best if things were up. Maybe if we don't know if it's going to be Cousins or Michael Penix Jr. And either way, with Michael Penix Jr., he's going to come in. If he does get the starts at all, he'll be an experienced rookie. And for Cousins, he played solid statistically in Minnesota with some decent weapons on offense, but now he's going into a situation in Atlanta with less structure around him. If Cousins gets the start, I just see maybe at best 7-8 wins. I think the Falcons are pretty mediocre this season at best. As far as that division goes, I feel like I got the Buccaneers winning the NFC South again, or maybe New Orleans, maybe. But I'm going to get more into that for another time. So to answer your question, I see a mediocre team with the Falcons at best. But now, folks, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're talking about the NFL. Now we switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about Team USA and the basketball gold medal wins a little bit. Because we're going to talk about that more in depth tomorrow on the Pick and Roll podcast, where you got, me, myself, Mitch Kofsky, Blaze Radio, Coach Ed Gladney, Rios from Just Fans podcast. We'll give our thoughts about it tomorrow. But now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. We'll talk about Team USA and the gold medal win in just one moment. And now we're back, folks. Now I'm going to finish this off. We'll talk a little bit about the 2024 Olympics. It's official. Team USA's basketball teams, both the men's and the women's, have won their gold medal. For the men's, we defeated France in the gold medal game by 1 point to officially get the gold again. Now we went into this. I went into this expecting that Team USA would do what it normally does, and that's win the gold medal. But I did expect a competitive road to the gold, and that's what we got toward the end with the semifinals and the gold medal game. We went out there against Serbia. We had a tough go against Serbia, but we turned things around in the fourth quarter. It looked like we were on the verge of losing and possibly having to settle for a bronze again, like we did 2 decades ago. But not this time. Steph Curry came along and said, nope, we're winning the gold. I'm not accepting anything less than. And that's what they did. We went out there. We defeated Team France. We defeated Team Serbia. We pulled off the comeback. And we set up the gold medal game against France in Paris, which was great. And we had it was a good game too. It was. Well, it was nice. We went out there, we defeated France in the gold medal round. It was 97-96, a 1-point game. Now, granted, we did let them off the hook a little bit late, but we didn't let it stop us. And Steph Curry, again, had another phenomenal performance. He dropped 24 in the gold medal win. Now, this creates a discussion amongst Team USA as who should have been the gold medal winner. Who should have been who should have been the MVP? Was it LeBron? Was it Steph? Was it KD? That's going to be the big discussion. Matter of fact, after this is over, I'm going to put a poll on my channel. That way you guys, it's going to be on my community tab, my channel, after this is over. I'm going to do this as soon as we go off the air. Matter of fact, I'll put the poll up now. And here's the link to my channel right here. It'll be on my community tab. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to put the poll up so you guys can answer who you think should be the MVP. My 3 options for it are going to be, LeBron, Stephen Curry, and Kevin Durant. Now, to me, my answer is, if you're talking about who's the MVP for the entire gold medal games from start to finish, it's LeBron James. Now, if you're talking in the championship round, it's Steph Curry. But but even then, you could argue Kevin Durant. That you could argue either or, because Kevin Durant, he put up a phenomenal performance all throughout the gold medal. We saw him dominating there, right there. So Kevin Durant's another player. You could argue he's the greatest Olympic player of all time, and just excellent performances all around. So who's the MVP for Team USA men's basketball? Our options are LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry. There you go. It's official. It's on my community tab. So you guys can go vote on the poll on my channel, who you think is the MVP for them. But yeah, obviously, we won a gold medal again. That's the thing that matters most. No disappointment there. Did we expect tougher competition? I did. But you know what? I'm glad we won. We had tougher competition because that makes this gold medal a lot more thrilling. And I know Dream Team's the standard for the gold medal wins, but in me, if you were asking me personally, I consider this bigger than us defeating team. I figured this a bigger accomplishment personally than a 92 Dream Team. Nothing against them, but here's why. Even though the 92 Dream Team's the historic Olympic team, they'll always be the poster team for Olympic gold medal teams. I consider this a bigger accomplishment because we had tougher competition in 2024 than in 92. Because you look at the competition the Dream Team had to face. Who did they beat? That was notable. Most notable thing was Tony Kukoc playing good against them. And then he won over Michael Jordan's respect and eventually landed on the Chicago Bulls. That's the most notable thing from it. But outside of that, we steamrolled through everyone that year. This year, I mean, yeah, we steamrolled early like South Sudan, Puerto Rico. But then again, we had tough competition with Serbia and France. But guess what? We won. We beat them. That's what makes this gold medal win more thrilling. I'd rather us beat competitive teams. Oh, I'm happy for Team USA in the gold medal win. Now, we'll just to see. I'm going to be curious to see what the effect is of all these guys playing together. Will it have an effect on their game next season? Will we see Bam Adebayo? Or any of these guys step up after having to play with LeBron and KD and Steph Curry? Similar to the way guys like Carmelo, Dwayne Wade stepped up for that 08-09 season. Dwight Howard as well, after playing on that Redeem team. With that, we will find out throughout the NBA season. Before we switch gears and we go off here, you got to at least acknowledge the women too. Now, the women won again. They beat France 67-66 to win the gold for them as well. That's the women's 8th consecutive gold medal. Yeah, Aja Wilson led the way with 21 points. So shout out to the women for once again just kicking ass and doing their thing. Now, the difference between the men's and the women's is we're at the point, because if you look into the women's, I looked up the score boxes real quick. Most of those games were not competitive. The only one that was competitive was the win against France, which they ironically won by 1 point. I think we got to give acknowledgement to the irony that the USA men and women's team beat France to win the gold by 1 point each. But hey, with women, they've won 8 straight golds. The thing is, though, the women's basketball isn't as competitive as the men's are, because women's basketball hasn't come to that point where it's had that international breakthrough yet. Now, if this Caitlin Clark-Angel Reese rivalry helps bring more mainstream eyeballs to women's basketball in the U.S., that could eventually have an effect overseas, but that'll take a long time before that happens. But yes, so shout out to Team USA for once again dominating the basketball world. The men, they had the more competitive road there. No offense to the ladies, but the men had the more competitive road, and they still dominated. Women are still doing their thing, being the best basketball players in the world for the women in the U.S., and we'll see if time goes along, if it becomes more competitive for the women's side in Europe. But that's something to look out for down the line. But yeah, we'll leave it at that right there, man. There's not much else to say. Like I said, we're going to start focusing more on football now that we're at football season. So to everyone that tuned into this, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope you enjoyed the Olympics. Hope you enjoyed my talk about the Eagles. For all the football fans, you will be getting more Eagles content, more NFL talk as we get closer to the NFL season. On Wednesdays during football season, we'll be doing pick'ems, where me, Mitch, AK, a bunch of guys get together. Once we have the full lineup for the season, I'll promote it and let you guys know the full lineup. But we'll be making our picks. We'll be giving a discussion of the games, giving our thoughts on Wednesday nights. And, and tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for all the basketball fans, we'll be on Pick and Roll, talking about the NBA, talking about the gold medal win. We'll be giving our thoughts on who's should have won the MVP for Team USA. Myself, Coach Ed Gladney, Mitch Kofsky, Rios from Just Fans Podcast, and Blaze Radio. So tune in 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. And also, this stream will be up on Spotify for the end of the week. Be on the lookout for me to share that on my Twitter And if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, I'll drop the link to my Twitter for you guys to follow me real quickly before we go off air. So again, thank you to everyone that tunes in. I hope you enjoyed this. And it's Nicky Steez about to sign off here. There's the link to my Twitter to follow me. You guys can follow me. I'll leave that up for a minute. So again, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever time you're listening to this, either live on the replay on YouTube or on Spotify. Hope you enjoyed. Have a great day. And Nicky Steez signing off till next time. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby.